Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to be talking today about choking phenomenon. It's actually a very, it's kind of a buzzword that you would hear in media, because every other bad performance, and then suddenly you see on newspapers saying that athletes have choked, cricketer has choked, especially with cricket. So today I'm going to take a slightly different approach. You would have looked at a lot of quantitative data for the past 1.5 days. So today I'm going to talk about a qualitative study that I did. I'm going to give you a quick heads up on what exactly is choking and how do you define it and how do you conceptualize it. And then we'll go about talking about the study that I did. All right. So first and foremost, it's important that we understand how do you exactly define choking. So choking is, so I'll give you a small example before I define choking. So you'd have heard of a lot of athletes. So the period that Virat Kohli went through, right, from 2021, 22, where he was not able to completely perform to the bestest of his potential, was a period we call it as performance slump. That is slightly different from choking. So that is where choking comes in. So choking is basically an acute and a significant drop in performance. It's very catastrophic. You don't understand why it happens, and it happens in crucial and important moments. So you wouldn't see it happening day in and day out. It happens in a crucial period, which will have bigger consequences. So something like a World Cup, probably a knockout game or something. So it's a result of increased anxiety and perceived pressure. So when you perceive a situation to be highly pressurizing, automatically it will push you to a situation where you might choke. So it doesn't refer to any kind of decrement in performance, but a specific one which happens only in crucial moments. So that's what choking is. So let's understand the cricket environment. So one thing we have to understand while talking about choking is it's because of the environment that we are in that leads to choking. Okay, so cricket by itself has this ability to trigger and create an environment which would cause a lot of pressure in an athlete. So there are two types of major pressures, which is internal and external. And as stated, one of the biggest things that you would have noticed, especially if you have been athletes or you've worked with athletes yourself, you'd notice that self-presentation, how an individual, how a selector sees you, how a coach sees you, or how an audience or a fan sees you is very, very important for an athlete. And that has a huge impact on how you feel about your game and how you feel on that particular day. So that internal pressure and external pressure of obvious things, selections, oppositions, expectations from yourself, your family, media image, again, a big topic. I think I wouldn't be able to do justice if I start talking about it. But media image is a huge, huge deal in India, especially when it comes to cricket. So you can understand this pressure is a consequence of the cricket environment being extremely competitive, challenging, and judgmental, which is obviously because of the rightmost reasons. If you can see, it's about the fame, the money, the fans, the attention that you get, and expectations. So all of this put together will give you an environment, especially in India, if you notice, gives you an environment which is highly pressurizing for performance, for image. And one of the biggest examples I can give you of not just performance is also about character. Character also equally is highly pressurizing. You have to maintain a certain image, no matter whether you're an athlete, you're a support staff, or whoever you are working with the main team. So all of this creates a very high pressure situation, and thereby creates a lot of opportunities for an individuals to choke. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick example of something that happened very recently so that you have a clear idea of what choking is exactly. So this is a match between South Africa versus Netherlands. So I'm pretty sure you have been, looking at these scores. So Netherlands and Australia played in Himachal Pradesh. They played in Dharamshala, and Netherlands were batting first. They were at 140 for 7. So you were expecting somewhere around, let's say, 200, max 200 all out. And then suddenly you see the low order batsmen hitting around 105 runs. And South Africa, in reply, couldn't, chase 246 runs. They got all out for 207. And the worst part about this whole situation was there were 3 centurions in the team. In the previous 2 matches, there were 3 centurions. In the previous match, they had won against Australia. Quinton de Kock had a century himself. So you can understand the kind of performance and the kind of form they are all in. And then suddenly you see them against Netherlands, losing a match as bad as that. So this, I would classify this as choking. So this is not a slump. The reason why I say it's not a slump is because consequentially, if you looked at other matches, they have not lost a single match after that. So that particular event that happened when, so your top order actually falls down, it has a slump, and there's nobody else to take up that job, is actually where choking happened. So I think that'll give you a clear idea of where and what I'm trying to say about choking. So again, this is a good example of a positive, consequence of pressure. So one of the biggest examples, and I've read a lot about this. I've gone through a lot of data regarding Ben Stokes. This particular match is the biggest example of pressure, handling pressure, and how he avoided choking. So the moment, the situation, and the event was the biggest stage for them. If you take an English cricketer, it's one of the biggest, and he could do it at that moment. So this is the other side of pressure. So there are quite a few people who can handle pressure really well, but there are going to be situations where you're not going to be able to do it. And today, when you look at Ben Stokes, there are also situations and matches where he is not able to, reproduce that performance. So that is what choking and performance slump is all about. So now that I've given you a good heads up, I'm going to go slightly more theoretical. I understand it's going to be slightly boring, but then, yeah, please bear with me with that. So we're going to talk about three factors when it comes to choking. One is the antecedents. It means what precedes a choke. So what happens before you're going to actually have a choking incident. So one of it is called as perceived pressure. One of the most important thing. How do you see an event? Do you see it as something that is going to put you under a lot of pressure? Is it something that frightens you, gives you a fear of failure? All of these things are the, I would say, symptoms, rather in a more easier terms, symptoms of the fact that you're going to choke in that particular match. So examples are loss of attentional control, fear of failure, debilitative. So when you're very anxious, there are going to be a lot of chances that you're not able to perform to your potential, and thereby leading to choke. The next one is mechanisms. Sorry. Mechanism. This is something I'm going to be talking slightly in a more elaborate way in the following two slides. So I'll just skip it to the next one. The next one is moderators. So these are the factors that will influence your likelihood to choke in a match or a situation or not. So they're going to tell you whether you have the likelihood of choking in that particular match or not. And it also determines which kind of mechanism you're going to employ. So it's important. So as sports psychologists, as coaches, what is our role at this situation is trying to identify whether, using the antecedents and the moderators to identify whether they are in anywhere closer to choking. So what we can do as sports scientists is that we can identify whether they are showing any symptoms, or rather whether they're showing any closer, explanations to these factors. So that's where we will be able to identify before they choke. All right. So coming to mechanisms, so there are two major mechanisms. I'm going to just give a quick, heads up to it. One is the distraction theories, and the other one is self-focus. Both are attentional theories. And according to this theory, when your attention shifts away from what you're relevantly doing, or whatever task is in your hand, when you shift your focus away from that and focus on your negative emotions, thoughts, etc., automatically what happens is called as choking. So what happens during the time when you're anxious is basically you have a dual task situation. So dual task is basically one part of your brain, one part of your working memory is focusing on the task or the skill to perform, and the other part of it is stuck with the anxious thoughts. So that's where the self-doubt, the negative emotions, the anger, all those things are being processed. So what happens in a working memory is the amount of capacity it has for to process performance related information gets reduced. So that is when you don't have the full capacity to process just performance related information, and thereby what happens is you don't have that much space left, and consequentially what you do is choke. You don't know what's happening and then you suddenly choke. So that is what is about distraction theories. So there is a reduction in the capacity of the working memory, and you're not able to efficiently handle the task relevant information. So the last two theories that I've written about, I'm not going to bombard you with those theories right now because it's a short session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with those theories. What you can do is note it down and then have a look at it. Or if you want to have a chat about it later post session, I think I'll be more than happy to do that. So these two theories are the major theories under distraction theories, which try and explain choking incidents. And the next one is self-focus. As I said, it's basically when you're extremely focused on the task in hand. So let's say you guys walk every day. So when you walk every day, you're not conscious whether your left leg is in the front or whether your right leg is in the front, where are your hand movements and stuff. It's just very natural. So what you understand is it's a very automated process that you've developed over the period of time. Similarly, with any sport and any experienced athlete, they would develop a certain mannerism. You will notice that they're doing it very effortlessly. It is an automated process that all of us develop over time, and therefore it's important that we is time. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. I'll just probably. Okay. I have quite a bit. Okay. So I'm going to quickly just go through my study that I did. It's a qualitative study which aims to understand the antecedents, mechanisms, and factors that influence choking. And it also identifies the consequence and techniques used to alleviate it. So I did a qualitative research with 8 professional athletes, which had international and national athletes. We did like semi-structured interview, collected the data and stuff. So these were the major findings, major results of the data. I'm going to just give you a heads up on the findings, and then I'm going to leave you with that. So individual responsibility was the major antecedent. They felt this was the reason which preceded choking. So being a captain, being a bowler who's bowling the last over, trying to defend 6 runs was a situation that really preceded a choke event. Experience level and team environment. So though we have always told that team environment, cohesion, everything is important, it seems like this environment can have a huge impact on a choking event. So it's an important finding. And most cricketers in this study describe distraction as their basic reason for choking. And it can have a cyclic effect where your low confidence can lead to another choking event because you feel you're not ready for the next event. And finally, most of the athletes that I spoke to had a self-taught version of the psychological strategies. They never knew what the actual strategy was. So that's where the role of a sports psychologist comes in. Finally, for the coaches, it's important that they engage in holistic process goals. They become more of a transformational leaders, and it's important that they provide the information-based social support. But as in sports psychologist, I think it's been something that's known to everyone. So simulation training, where you're already familiar with the situation, can help you, deal with choking situations better. Creating positive psychological climate and using cognitive coping methods can be few things that sports psychologists and practitioners can do in order to help prevent and probably deal with choking better. So yeah.